What is there, a game on tonight or something? Or where is everybody? Am I missing something?
I don't know.
I feel like I'm missing out.
Diago,
Yeah.
I think I said Yalav Yavai by Mincha because I davened at work because I got stuck. I don't remember if I said Yalav Yavai. I don't think I did.
Did you have in mind to say?
I was catching up on the daf and you're like, hekdesh. I'm like, oh shoot, did I say Yalav Yavai by Mincha?
Did you have in mind by the beginning of Shemona Esrei to say it, or you didn't?
No. The only thing I had in mind was make sure to say Masha Baruch.
All right, half is good.
How does it work? You do 2 Myers?
Yeah.
Why does it matter?
Oh
if
no,
you had
no,
in
no, no,
mind
no,
or
no
not?
2 Myers. No 2 Myers.
Why does it
No, it's
matter?
never
if you
2
had in
Myers.
mind?
It's the next day.
You have to hold a
No.
3-day Rosh Chodesh next month.
No, really, you should do 2 Myers.
Really? I thought it's the next day.
No, there's Tashlumin. But the reason why you don't do 2 Myers is because what's the new Shemona Esrei going to gain? He's not going to say Yalav Yavai anyway. So what does it gain him? Meaning he davened
Which is
mincha.
why you only do 2 Myers, only do like 2 minchas because it's going to be the same, or chakras. When do you ever go to the next day?
Naftali, let's say a guy today didn't daven mincha at all.
Yeah.
So then tonight
That guy's
He
not
was
asking
not-
the question.
he would daven 2 Myers. Tonight he would daven 2 Myers.
Really?
Of course, the
Landau,
next
what's the
tefillah
matter with
goes.
you, man? You've never missed Mincha before?
Who says I made it up? I thought once the day's done, you're done with the day.
Okay, so that's
No, you-
incorrect. That-
You get
that
the
is
next one
incorrect.
to make up. Always.
No, but it's the next day. It's hard
So
to
what?
Oh,
start
you get,
days at
When
night.
you get Marv, if it's Marv, you get Shacharis.
I thought if you
The
missed,
next
oh
one to
my
make up.
Wow, you see, I learned something new every day.
Now let's learn something else new. Tonight, since he davened mincha today, and he didn't say Yalav Yavai, so what's he going to do tonight?
He's not gonna be able to say Mara for the Yalav
Daven
Yavai.
a second time. He davened a second time, but he's not saying Yalav Yavai. Right? Because you always do what the Shemona Esrei is the one you're davening. So he's not going to say Yalav Yavai anyway. So what's the point? He's making tashlumin because he davened mincha already, and he
A
missed
correct
Yalav
tefillah
Yavai.
is the point, not a broken tefillah.
But it's
No,
not.
no,
a
it's
tefillah.
not. Double up.
Count, Yaakov.
That's, what do you say?
Does it count?
Does it
Let's
count?
say on the last day, the 30th day, you forgot to say Masha Baruch by Mincha. You say
Right.
the same thing?
Same type of idea. You wouldn't say 2 because it's not gonna have the Masha Baruch in it.
Correct.
Is there any time it doesn't switch over? A weekday to Shabbos? What about weekday to
Nope.
Shabbos?
If a guy misses mincha on a Friday afternoon, he davens two Friday night Shemona Esrei.
What the heck is it? Oh my gosh.
Sorry, but that's
Crazy.
the way it rolls. But you know what?
Didn't we have this in brachas?
I would imagine
That would be a good place to have it. yeah.
that lochayra. It's
Think I
probably a
remember?
better chance than in bechayras.
Okay. Well, you would know that.
You saw this guy with the eggs that he's giving out free eggs for Masechtas Be'ah to be finished. Somebody said, "What is he going to do by Masechtas Sota?"
I thought they said, "What
Yeah.
about Masechtas Gittin?"
So that was the toned down version.
Yeah, I don't even know what about Nida.
So what do you do about Myriv?
No, that-
What do you do about missing Yalav Yavai? I don't
He
remember the
doesn't
answer.
repeat. He doesn't repeat.
doesn't
there
repeat
are
it
shittas that
because-
say he does. There are shittas that say that he does, but Lamaisa he doesn't. Aaron Zweig, what were you saying?
Well, you mentioned earlier that you asked parents if he had in mind to say Yalav Yavai when he started Shemona Esrei. Or like, why is that ma'akiv? Everybody
No,
has in
because-
mind when they
no, because
clap
when-
around,
No,
but
no,
then
but
you
when
forget
you,
by the time you get there.
Yeah, but not if he davened in his office and there was no clapping.
right. Meaning when you become Mesupik, it's because he's a Mesupik. He doesn't know for sure. If he didn't know for sure, then he would have to daven again, excluding this situation. But in the situation where you're not sure, so the place can say that if you had in mind, if you thought about saying Yalav Yavai during Shemona Esrei, and then a while later you say, hey, did I say it or did I not? We just assume that you said it because you had in mind to say it at least in the beginning. If you ask me today if I daven mincha, I have no idea. I'm
I thought
assuming
nowadays nobody has kavan anyway. So
but that's right. So if you had in mind that you were supposed to say Yalav Yavai, so then it works. Then
I thought now the poskim don't make you do brachas over and shilas on that because nobody really has kavan anyway with their tefillas and everything. So
therefore
having in mind like certain brachas that you have to have in mind, and then somebody says I didn't have in mind or this that, you say you don't do it again or something. Like Shmona Esrei, the first two, like
that's only nowadays if you don't have kavanah the first bracha you don't repeat because you're not going to have kavanah the second time either.
Right, I remember you said that.
I don't know if they have a minion on yet. I can't see because I'm driving. But what's the deal with flour and yashon and all of that? How does that work?
We have a minion on. What's the deal with it?
So never mind.
Just become Hasidish, you don't care about it.
That King Arthur flour, I was going to buy it, but I wasn't sure about the whole yashon deal and how it works.
It's probably still yashon. Anyways, okay, so let's go.
Oh, hold on, Fianco. You care about Yashan?
No.
He asked me a question.
That wasn't the
Answer the question.
He's not going to discourage somebody.
No, I know if parents.
He's a little Hasidish. He's a little Hasidish.
He asked me about Yashan. He asked me about Yashan. What should I tell you? I personally
it makes sense that you care about Yashan.
But I do personally try to be makbid on Yashan, yes. So I'm not eating in your house, Icky. Anyways.
Okay, what am I going to do?
It's okay, Icky. You wear Bekasha. It's fine. Me too.
That's right. Okay, so let's go. Top line.
Does Mashiva Ruach also work with having it in mind for that, or just
no? It's only if you had it in mind and then later on you were doubtful whether you said it. If you know for sure you didn't say it, then you have to repeat it. Meaning, even if you had it.
Why does that work for Yalav Yavai and not for Mashiva Ruach?
It works for it does. It works for both.
Mashiva Ruach, if
again, let's be very clear here. Let's be very clear. If you had in mind to say Mashiva Ruach or Yalav Yavai before Shemona Esrei, and you know for sure you forgot it, then you have to repeat. We're talking about a scenario where you davened mincha a few hours ago, and you have no recollection whether you said Yalav Yavai or not. So then the bais can say that if when you davened Shemona Esrei a few hours ago, you had in mind, it's Rosh Chodesh, I better remember to say Yalav Yavai. And now, a couple hours later, you're doubtful, then you don't repeat.
What happens if you're up to V'chol Chayim and you're not sure if you said it?
Then you should go back.
You go back to Ritzei.
Yes. Yeah.
And Mashiva Ruach is not a problem if you say Maratol.
Correct. All right, let's go. Yeah. Yeah. So for all those that are a little upset that we didn't start yet, I have to make the 9:30 Ma'ariv. So, okay. So I'm going to try at least. Okay. So the top line, Lo chaltzim v'lo miyamin. So you don't do chalitza and you don't do Yibum. So we're saying that that's the reshus section, right? Again, the Mishna was talking about the things that we don't do on Yom Tov either because it's a shvus, it's a issur d'Rabbanan, or even if it's a reshus, a mitzvah that you're doing, still the Rabbanan said not to do it, or sometimes even a mitzvah the Rabbanan said not to do. So chalitza and Yibum was under the reshus category. What kind of reshus? Well, mitzvah kavan. You're doing a mitzvah. It's talking about where there was an older brother, or mitzvah begadol yavim, and there was a mitzvah for the gadol to be yavim. So right, so since the younger brother is not mechuyev because he has an older brother, so he still would get a mitzvah, but it's not a chiyuv. It's not a. I mean, it's a reshus. It's not a full-fledged commandment. So even that you shouldn't do on Yom Tov. It's not even that, but that you shouldn't do on Yom Tov. So Gemara says v'kulu time amai. And how come all these things you can't do, right? If they're not chiyuvim, they're just reshus. So gzeira shemi because you might write, right? You might write right. You might write a star. You might write a ksuva. So therefore, we don't allow it.
What about now that they have the ink that the doctors in Eretz Yisrael use?
What, the disappearing stuff?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Would you use that?
You could
For a
write it
ksuba?
over the same way they write it over everything.
What's
Different-
that? That's the Zoma Institute
They
thing?
write
Yeah.
it over so they could write this over too.
Yeah, but we don't have that. I don't have that. The common person doesn't have such a thing.
So who says a common person?
No,
needs
but
it?
this is a gezerah that you may write. This is a gezerah that you may write. So how's that going to help the gezerah?
I'm saying
might
because
end
you
up
could
not-
write it and it's not considered writing.
Right, but a lot
And
of
you can be
some,
You can be Makayim it and then write it again. What's the Yom Tov?
correct, but I'm saying that I think that the problem is that some of these cases, who says Yibum even needs a ksuba? That's a whole different issue.
I don't know. Certainly not me. I don't know.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So and also chalitza, you could ask chalitza, what kind of ksiva is there by chalitza? Right? So the chalitza is because you might write down exactly what went on there. Right? Okay, whatever it is, but that's the gezerah, as far-fetched as they seem to be. But yeah, you're right. I hear what you're saying. Okay, so then ve'eloi mishum mitzvah, and what's considered a mitzvah? Lo makdishin, v'lo marichin, v'lo machrimin. So you can't make hekdesh, you can't do erchin, you can't do cherims. Why? Gezerah mishum mekach u'memkar. It's a gezerah because of mekach u'memkar. Right? Because you might come to do business. It's very similar to business. Right? So Rashi and Tosfos both say, both say that what's mekach u'memkar, you're transferring from one property to another one. So too here, you'd be transferring, but making something hekdesh, it is a transfer, right? So then the question is, but mekach u'memkar is deraisa. Mekach u'memkar normally is accepted that it's a derabanan. Yeah. So then, okay, whatever it is, that's a whole sugi. Whether because if it's a rabbanon, then it's a gezerah l'gezerah. So Rashi answers it's kula chada gezerah. Okay, fine. V'loy magmin trumas and you're not allowed to lift up. Literally means lift up trumas and means to take up trumas and yeah. So pshita, it's pashet. So Tanur Yosef loy nitzachel litna l'kayin by b'yoyim. So about to even if you're giving it to the kayin that day, meaning of course you can't take off trumas and because that's fixing your food. But what happens if you give the trumas and ma'aser to the kohen or the levi that day? So that's a tzarich yomtiv. So even then, you're not allowed to. But v'hani mili peri the tefillim yes, well, that's all fruit that was tevel from yesterday, meaning it should have been fixed, should have been taken off trumas and ma'aser on erev yomtiv, and you didn't do it. So it's a problem, just like any other thing that you should have done before yomtiv. You can't do it yomtiv. But peri the tefillim ha'idna, but peris that became tevel today could go in isa lafrushim min challah, dough to separate challah from, meaning a woman's baking challah on Yom Tov. So there she takes off challah. Then that you are mafresh and you give it to the kohen, right? Because that's not something that was possible to be done from erev Yom Tov. So Gemara asks, now going back on all these Gemaras, the Mishna says there's rishus, and mitzvah. It says do they not have because a shvus? He's saying that it's a mitzvah, but it's also not assur with the Rabbana. What do you mean? All of these things are assur to do with the Rabbana, right? Why don't they just call it a shvus? All these things are shvus. Why does it say there's shvus, there's rishus? They're all shvus. They're all assur with the Rabbana, right? So why is the Mishnah splitting it? So all it means is it's a loimi bay. Loimi bay means I didn't need to tell you this. I could have even said something more. So loimi bay shvus greater so the assur. I don't have to tell you issa the rabbanon. So that's assur. Of course it's assur. Rabbanon said not to do it. Ella afilu shvus the rishus nami assur. Even when something you're getting a mitzvah, it's not a chiyuv, but it's a mitzvah. Even so, if the Rabbanan said not to do it, so we don't do it. And it goes without saying that a rishus you don't do if it's an issa the Rabbanan. The mitzvah nami asur. Even if it's a shvus that is going to be a mitzvah, it's still asur. Yeah, meaning the Chachamim have this koyach to say not only can't you do certain things, you can't even do optional mitzvahs. and you can't even do mandatory mitzvahs. All these things the Rabbanan have the koyach to say not to do on Yom Tov. Right? It's a lot of power that the Chachamim have. Yeah, fine. Kol elu b'Yom Tov amru. So we say that all these things are talking about Yom Tov. That's a Ramino as Gestira, meaning Yom Tov and it goes and Kol Shekain Shabbos. So Ramino as Gestira Mashilin Derech Haruba b'Yom Tov Avaloi b'Shabbos. We have a bais that says that dropping the dried fruit through the skylight on Yom Tov is allowed, but not on Shabbos. But our Mishnah says that it's the same. Yom Tov and Shabbos are the same. So how could that be? So Rabbi Yosef, Lekasha, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shua. One is Rabbi Eliezer, one is Rabbi Shua, the Tanya. And we had this case a couple of blot ago. If you have an animal and its child that fell into a bar, so we know the halacha is that you're not allowed to shech an animal and its child on the same day. So now they both fell into a bar. So how are you getting them out of the bar? We're afraid they're going to die in there. So Rabbi Eliezer, you take out the first one on the condition to shecht it, and you shecht it. And the second one, you make it parnasa in its place so that it shouldn't die. Meaning you go down to the bar and you provide it with food and drink, and hopefully it doesn't die. And then after Yom Tov, you take it out. That's Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Shua, no, you could do a shtick. Milas a rishon. You take out the first one, amanas l'sheichtoi, on the condition to shecht it, but then you don't end up shechting it. The chayzer, meaning you say, oh, maybe I like the other animal. The chayzer umarim, and you do a harama, you do a trick. Umayla sheni, you take up the second one and say, oh, maybe I want to eat the second one. Then now they're both out of it. Then if you want, you can shech this one, or you can shech that one. Now, how come Rabbi Shua is allowing this shtick to be done? It's an outright shtick. Again, according to Rabbi Shua, you take out one animal and say, oh, I don't like the way this animal looks. I think maybe the meat of the other animal is good. So then you go down and take out the other animal. So why are you allowed to do this shtick? So you're allowed to do it shtick because it's a loss. You might lose an animal, so we allow you to do the harama. So
Is he chayav to shecht one of them?
It sounds like from the Gemara that you chayav to shecht one of them. Otherwise, it's too much of a harama. But l'chayra, once they're out, so they're out. Why can't he change his mind? Let's say a third cow comes marching along. You say, hey, I like that cow better than the other two. Is he mechuyev to do one of the first two? I don't know. In the lumdus, from the Lashon of Gemara, it sounds like you have to shecht one. In the lumdus of it, I don't think you have to. Right? Because once it's out, it's out. Okay, so then that's what Gemara wants to think. So our Mishna would be Rabbi Yeshua that allows harama, and the other Mishna that says it's not allowed on Shabbos would be Rabbi Eliezer. So Gemara says no. Who says you can compare the two? Who says Dilma Adkan like Rabbi Eliezer Hasam Elo de Efshar Parnasa? Rabbi Eliezer there says you're not allowed to take the second animal out of the bar because there's a way out. You don't have to let the animal die. You go down into the bar and you mafarnas it. You give it parnasa, you give it to drink, you give it to eat. You talk to it, you tell it a bedtime story, and you make sure that it stays alive. Now, but here by the fruits, what are you going to do? What are you going to do to the fruits? You have to let it go inside. So, because otherwise it'll be a loss. Inami, the other way around. So by the animals in the bar, Rabbi Shua says you could do the shtick because it's possible to do harama. But here, by the roof, there's no way to do harama. Right? So since you can't do harama, you can't save it. Meaning, if you could save your stuff by doing a shtick, fine. But if you can't do a shtick, then maybe Rabbi Shua doesn't allow straight out malacha or tircha on Yom Tov. So we don't have a proof. So we don't have a teretz now that one Mishnah, that our Mishnah is Rabbi Shua and the Braisa is Rabbi Eliezer. One is Beis Shamai, one is Beis Hillel. That's not Beis Shamai. Might see in Loyas Akadim, Loyas Alula, Loyas Sefer Torah, Lishus Rabba. Right? Beis Shamai does not hold a mitoich. I'm sorry, not mitoich. I always say mitoich. Hoyel. No, it's mitoich.
It's mitoich.
Yeah, mitoich. I'm tired. I'm sorry. Mitoich, right? I always expect to make a mistake, so I didn't. I actually didn't make a mistake.
Right.
So then,
Which one did you want to say, Ripsi Yaakov?
I wanted to say the right one, but usually I say the wrong one. So when I said the right one, I said it must be the wrong one. I guess I shouldn't think too hard. Yes. Anyway, so Ella Papa. Like one is Beishamai was will. It's not Beishamai. Heimatzi and Loyas Hakotan, the Loyas Halula, the Loyas Sefer Torah Shesarabim. You can't carry things other than food, right? That's the famous opinion of Beishamai that we don't say mitoich, and the only things you're allowed to carry in the street on Yom Tiv are food, but nothing else. Ubeishilo Matir and Beisilo says the mutter. So Beishamai, the Mishna that says that you can't. Yeah, so the how do you say it now? The Mishna, they allow it only. Beis Shammai would say that you're not allowed to you're not allowed to move the fruits, the dried fruits on the roof. But Beis Hillel would say you're not allowed to. Right? So the Gemara says Dilma Loihi, but we're not talking. See, but Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, they're talking about carrying Rosh Hashanah. This is not Rosh Hashanah. This is dried fruits on the guy's roof, moving it down to his house. Where's the Rosh Hashanah? So that's what the Gemara asks. Dilma Loihi, Adkan Loikamer Beis Shammai Hasam Ela Hitzah. He maybe only talks about by carrying Rosh Hashanah. Avala Tiltul Loi, but Muksa, just moving it. Right? That's what should, because that was the issue here, because the dried fruits are muksa. But muksa, maybe he doesn't say his din. So Gemara answers, Atu Tiltul Lav Tzarech Haitzahu. There's a major line right here in the din of muksa. It says, isn't tiltul because of haitzah? Right? Meaning, what's the reason why they assur muksa? One of the reasons is because if you're going to allow people to carry things, you might end up carrying to Shusharam. So the whole beginning of the whole haitzah issue is coming from muksa. I'm sorry, the whole muksa issue is coming from haitzah. So therefore, that's why Beis Shammai wouldn't allow you, right? You wouldn't allow you to do this. And the way that's what Rashi, the last Rashi before the Mishna says. Also, then why, according to this, why are you allowed to ever carry anything on Shabbos or Yom Tiv? Right? If we're afraid you're going to carry it outside. So Rashi says because they weren't able to be aimed on such a gezeir, right? The whole gezeir is a drabanan of muksa. And Rashi says they wouldn't be able to be aimed on the gezeir. What are you going to do? How are you going to eat? How are you going to function if we don't allow you to carry things? So therefore, they only allowed certain things. They only disallowed certain things. Yeah. Fine. Fine. So Zok the Mishnah. Habehema. Now we get into techum for the next few bladas. Techum. Yeah, because you're only allowed to carry 2,000. Not carry. You're only allowed to walk 2,000 amos on Yom Tiv, just like on Shabbos. There's no difference in Yom Tiv and Shabbos when it comes to techum. So what about your property and what about your belongings? So behema v'akelim, your animals and your utensils, karagli avalim, they go with the feet of the owners, right? Meaning your animal can't walk any further than you can, and your kalim can't go any further than you can. Hamoiser behemtoi, right? We said, remember, we asked this kasha and Erevin, not kasha but shaila. If I go away for Shabbos.
Yeah, Shai Novak's famous question.
Right. So if you go, right, Shai was busy with this shaila. I go away for Shabbos to Lakewood. Last week I went to Lakewood for Shabbos. So I'm in Lakewood, and that means my kalim go with me. Now I'm in Lakewood. So I lend somebody my house for Shabbos. Does that mean they're not allowed to move anything because it's out of my techum from Lakewood? Right? Meaning, it's saying it, a behema and your kalim go with wherever the Baal is. Right? So if I'm in Lakewood for Shabbos, you want to come to my house and borrow a sefer, how could you do that? It's out of the techum. It's out of my techum from Lakewood. Right? The kasha is better than the kasha is better than the
So in Eretz Yisrael,
you're blanking out there, parrots, but
if I'm in Eretz Yisrael or Australia,
right.
It's not Shabbos here. You tell me it's going to be assur?
I don't know about
Why is that any different than Lakewood?
If it's not, If it's not Shabbos, no, because he's saying it's not Shabbos there. It's Shabbos here, not Shabbos there. No, parrots, it would have to be Shabbos would go bust you in Australia. Right? Okay, so the place
I
can say
understand,
that.
but that means somebody's in my house and it's Thursday or Friday here, and I'm in Australia and it's Shabbos for me, then it's assur for him to use that pot.
He could use the pot, he just can't move it. That's all. He can't move anything.
So it's like you're going to tell the guy he can't move his pot because it's Friday today. Because it's Shabbos.
Well,
Because it's below.
let him answer the regular question. What
Because
parents can, if can he smoke your cigarettes?
that's true too. It can't move it. No, that's what it. So the place can say that what it means is that your kalim, if your kalim are normally in your house, so then it goes with your house. It doesn't go with you specifically where you are. But I don't know exactly.
No, so you asked for carrot. You went to Lakewood. You took somebody from Rockaway, lent you a safe, and you took his safer to Lakewood. Can you do anything with that safer?
Oh, that's very good. Right. That l'char is worse. That's a good point. That's l'char is worse. Parrots, you hear that? Meaning, you take my safer from Far Rockaway, you bring it to Lakewood. No, you see, that's going to be different because the end of the mission is if you borrowed it before. So since you borrowed it, it goes with the borrower.
It goes with the borrower.
It goes with the borrower. That's going to be vital to that. I know that's going to be today's daf. That's going to be vital. But it would have to be a situation where you borrowed it on Shabbos. So I don't know how that would be. Oh, no, a guy from Lakewood, a bacher in the yeshiva. He goes home for Shabbos and he has a sefer in the dorm. Right? So you want to go take the guy's sefer. Yeah, so that would be, that taka would be that. I think that would be more shver. That would be more shver. Anyways, okay, so either way, so behema v'kelim kiragli habaylim. The behema and kelim are like the feet of the bailim and the animal, meaning that's also a situation where an animal has to keep yom tov. So let's say you hand over your behema to your son or to the shepherd, that even though you gave it over to somebody else, it still goes with the bailim. Goes with the owners, not with the shepherd, right? So we're going to see that that's talking about only if he handed it over to them on Yom Tov. If he handed it over to them before Yom Tov, then it goes with them. Let's say one of the kids, one of the brothers in the house has the kelim that are specific for him. They have the din like his feet. But if they're not miyuchad for that specific kid, then it only gets, this is a wild chumrah, the Mishna is saying, then this item only gets to go where everybody can equally go. Meaning you have four brothers, let's say. One makes an eruv to the north, one to the south, one to the east, one to the west. So since they all share this item can only go where all of them could go. So if they make eruvin, each one to a different direction, then this thing can't really move at all because it can only go where all of them could go. We'll see more of that in the Gemara. And then Ashayel Kli Mechaver, somebody who borrows a Kli from his friend, may Erev Yom Tov. So if he borrowed it Erev Yom Tov, right, Rabban, this is the case. You borrowed it from Erev Yom Tov, Karagli Ashayel. Then it goes like the feet of the one who borrowed it, because he already borrowed it before Yom Tov. So it goes with him. He's the owner. He has control. So it goes with him. The Yom Tov, but on Yom Tov, Karagli Amashal. If the guy comes to borrow it on Yom Tov, then it can only go as far as the lender. Right? A woman goes and she borrows from her friend some spices and some water, umelach and salt li'isasa for her dough. That dough can only travel the places that both of them could go. So, right, it's also big chiddush. So, while a woman goes to borrow spices or water or salt from a friend, right, and now she puts it into her challah. Now she wants to send her challah all the way to the other side of town. It can't go. It can only go as far as both of them could go, which the Gemara in tomorrow's daf is going to ask, why isn't it bottle or whatever it is? Right? So Rabbi Yehuda says by water it's not a problem. Water doesn't have any sort of mamish to it, so therefore that's not an issue. Fine. So Gemara asks, Masnisin, the loiker Reb Daisa. Our Mishnah is not like Reb Daisa. Again, our Mishnah says that if you lend it to somebody, it goes with the. I'm sorry, if you give it over to a shepherd or whatever on Yom Tov, it goes with the owner. So we say in the Mishnah is not like Reb Daisa. If you take an animal from your friend on Erev Yom Tov, even though you didn't hand it to him only on Yom Tov, it goes with the guy that's taking it, right? Which our Mishnah says it goes with the owner, not the guy that took it. And somebody hands his behemoth to a shepherd, even though he only gave it to him on Yom Tov, so it's like the ragle it's like the feet of the shepherd. So you see clearly he's saying different than our Mishnah, that it goes with the recipient, not with the owner. So it says, you could even say our Mishnah is Reb Daisa. But like Kasha, one is talking about where the city only has one shepherd. And Kan v'shnei royim, and here is talking about where the city has two shepherds. Meaning when the city has one shepherd, so it's considered the shepherds. Why? Because everybody in the city hands it to him. So it's almost like the default is that this animal belongs to the shepherd. So wherever the shepherd can go, that's where it's allowed to go. But when there's two royim in the city, so how do you know which shepherd you're going to use? Since you don't know which shepherd you're going to use, you can't say, it goes with this shepherd's feet, because you have no idea if it's going to go to that shepherd. So therefore, it goes with the owners, right? Teganami, and it's also Meduyik in the Mishnah. Gatani lebnai ay leraya, says to his son or to a raya, right? Meaning he had a choice of either his son or the shepherd. So since he had a choice, and that choice was not made before Yom Tov, therefore it goes with the owner's feet, and it can only go as far as the owner, not as far as the shepherd or the son. So Shema Mina, that would be the din. So halacha is like Reb Daisa, that it goes with the shepherd and the son. So I'm going to ask him, did Reb Yochanan really say that the halacha is like Reb Daisa? V'amar Reb Yochanan, halacha kistam Mishna. Halacha is like a stam Mishna. V'tana behema v'akelim keragli habaylim. Right, and it says that the behemoth and kalim go with the owner. Right, so the Gemara, so that's the kasha from our Mishnah. The Gemara says, "V'lavu kimna." Do we not say kan v'roya echad kan b'shnei roya? There's a different case. You can't compare the cases. One is the one where there was one shepherd. So when there's one shepherd, it automatically goes with the feet of the shepherd. When there's two, then it goes with the owner because he hasn't made the decision. Okay, so now we get into Breira. Right, for the next blot and a half, we have Breira. So again, Breira, first let's see the case. First we have this interesting case, and then we'll get to Breira. So Torah, two guys go and they borrow a jacket as partners. They go to some rich guy, they say, hey, can we use your jacket? He says, sure. So they partner, and he says to them, you're both responsible. So So one of them is going to take the jacket and he's going to go to shul in the morning with it. And the other one's going to use it to go to a bais Mishna on Yom Tov, to a party. Right? So they both have responsibility, but they have a shutvis. Right? They're partners in this jacket. One makes an eruv to the north, right? Because meaning what an eruv means is that normally you allow 2,000 amas. Let's say you want to go up to 4,000 amas, so you put some food down at 2,000 amas, and that becomes your resting place, and then you allow 2,000 more amas, right? So So one of these partners made his eruv to the north, and one of the partners made his eruv to the south. So the guy that made it to the north can only go as far as the guy who made the eruv to the south could go, because again, there's a partnership here in the jacket. So since there's a partnership in the jacket, so that each one, we said, can only go as far as the feet of its owner. So since there's two owners here, it has to go with where both owners could go. So it can only go as far as they both can equally go. The one who goes to the south can only go as far as the feet could carry him from the one from the north. And if they did it in the middle, right? Let's say each one made an Erev so far away that one made an Erev 2,000 one way and the other one went 2,000 the other way, and this jacket's right in the middle. You can't move the jacket, right? Because it's added away. Meaning, if you make an Erev to the north, then you lose your way to go to the south. And if you make an Erev to the south, you lose your way going to the north. So therefore, if they both make it to the maximum Erevin, and that jacket's in the middle, then they just lost out because that jacket's not allowed to move from its place. Because if it does, it's added a techum from one. And if it moves
So
the other way,
neither
it's
one
added
could
a techum
wear
from
it
the
on
other
the
one.
stage.
Correct. Neither. Yes, it sounds like a disaster.
They borrowed the rich roommate's jacket. The two schlepper guys. Neither one could wear it.
Correct. Yeah. So they'd have to. Yeah. Fine. So itmar. So we say shnayim shalachu chavis. Okay, so that's the case. So they can't because they're partnerships. Now we get into the lumdus of breira. So itmar shnayim shalachu chavis. Two partners that took a barrel. Ubehema b'shutfis. So they took a behema and a barrel. So Rav Amar chavis muteris. The chavis can go wherever you want. Right? Each one can take it whichever way, whichever part of techum that they want. Behema assur, but the behema cannot. The behema is stuck only in the area that both of them could go to. Shmuel Amar Chavis Nami Asura. Shmuel says no, the Chavis is also like we said with the jacket. Right? So now what's going on here? So Microsoft Rav, Ikosover Yesh Breira. So if Rav says that there's Breira, that there's choice, meaning again, Breira is that you can retroactively make a decision today, and that will cut it back to whenever the decision had to be made, which would be in this case before Yom Tov. Right? So if he holds Yesh Breira, Afilu Behema Tishtri, so then even the animal, because meaning if you're saying Yesh Breira, so that means I own the animal to go this way, and you own the animal to go that way. Fine. And that's before Yom Tov, so that's okay. And the same thing with the barrel. So if he holds a Breira, so then even the animal should be mutter. Because of Ein Breira, and if he says Ein Breira, which means that in each little piece of the barrel, and each little piece of the animal, both of them own partnership to it, and so neither can go in either direction. So now Filu Chavis Nami Asura. So then even the barrel's also. Right? So the Gemara says, Lo'ilam Kasavar Yesh Breira. No, he holds as Yesh Breira. V'shanya Behema. And a Behema is different. The Koyanki Tchumen Me'adodi. A Behema is different because the Tchumen are literally means they're nursing from each other. Right? Nursing means they're getting koyach from each other. Meaning a barrel, you could split a barrel in half. You could say, okay, you get to take the barrel that way for this part of the day. You get to take the barrel for that part of the day. Fine. But an animal, even if you want to say that the animal can go in the north because it goes to the part that's in north, right? But part of that, you can't split an animal. Meaning a barrel you can cut in half and finish. And that's it. One takes half the barrel, the other takes half the barrel. But an animal you can't split in half, at least when it's alive. Right? You're using this animal not for meat, you're using this animal to travel with it. So you can't split an animal. So therefore, you can't say Breira on the animal. That's what the Gemara thinks now. So you're not worried about Isser Muktzah, but you're worried about the Isser of techum. What does it mean, Isser Muktzah? Because since I'm not allowed to eat the other half of the animal, so the other half, meaning one partner can't eat the other half of the animal, so that means it's muktzah for him, and the other one can't eat the other half of the animal, so it's also muktzah for him, right? So you're not worried about muktzah, but listen, techum and chashashu, but techum you are chashav for, right? Meaning it should be muktzah. So Shasik Rav was quiet, which is a big Machlokes in the Rishonim. Was he quiet because he admitted it to this question, or was he quiet because he didn't and he just didn't even think it was a question? Fine. So my Havi, the bottom. What's the bottom line? Do we say Breira or not? So Rav Hoshi Amar Yesh Breira, and Rav Yochanan Amar Ein Breira. Rav Hoshi says you do say Breira, that you do say that retroactively the decision can be made, and Rav Yochanan says you can't say. So Rav Hoshi of Yesh Breira, does Rav Hoshi hold a Breira? But Tanan, we learned in the Mishna bais, right? We had this case a couple of times already. So we know that a mace makes everything in the house tummy. What happens in the doorways? So the doorways, right, like in a hospital, in order to keep it tar for Gehanim, they make sure the doors are always closed. Except a doorway, So a doorway on the other side of a hallway, let's say on the other side of a doorway, doesn't become tummy. But the doorway that they plan on taking the mace out of, that will become tummy. So you have multiple doors. You don't know which way it's going. So they're going to all be assur. So a mace bais psachim harbe. It has many doorways. We don't know which way it's going out. Kulan tamein. They're all tummy. Niftach echad mehan. If one of the doors went open, right? Meaning after the person died, one of the doors was open. Then who tummy b'kulan tyron? That door becomes tummy, and the rest of the doors are tar. Chishev loitzia be'echad mehan. So what happens if the person had in his head that he's going to remove the mace through one particular door, or by a window that was 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim wide? So then matzelas al psachim kulan, it saves all the doors, because since you thought that you're going to take it out one specific door or one specific window, so then that's the one that's going to become tummy, and all the rest are going to stay tar. Shamai Yimrim, he had to have had it in his head before the guy died. Once the guy died, all the doorways become tummy. He could even think about it after he dies. And we learned on that. It's what it's talking about is to be metar. Beis Hillel is saying that it's going to make the doorways tar from here and on, right? But any kalim that are under these doorways after he makes the decision are tar. But of course, kalim that were there before he makes the decision are going to be tummy, right? So the Gemara says, "Mikano laba in," only from when he makes the decision and on. If somebody puts utensils in those doorways, though, they're going to be tar. Lemafrei aloi. But anything, we're not going to say retroactive, that since he thought about it, so the decision kicks back to before the person died. So Gemara, so you see clearly that Rav Hoshia holds that the yesh breira. I'm sorry, he says ain breira. So Gemara says Eipach Rav Hoshia Amar ain breira. So we switch it. Peretz's favorite teretz, right? Rav Hoshia Amar ain breira. He says we don't say breira, right? But Rav Yochanan Amar yesh breira, and Rav Yochanan says we do say breira. So Gemara asks, "Me is Rav Yochanan breira? Does Rav Yochanan hold a breira?" Amar Rav Asi Amar Rav Yochanan. So now this is a different din. You have brothers that yarshin money, right? So when there's a Yerusha, so let's say it's $100 that they're yarshining. So eventually each one's going to get 50. But initially each one has a fraction of every single dollar or penny or a fraction of pennies, whatever it is. And then they split it. So when they split it, we look at it as if they purchased it from each other. So now we know that there's a din by Yovel that everything goes back to the original owner. So when these two brothers yarshin a field from their father, so are they considered Yerusha, in which case it doesn't go back because it's considered that it's theirs without a purchase? Or do we say it's a purchase and then they have to give it back to the estate after 50 years by Yovel, and then they have to resplit it again? There's no real, seemingly there's no real nafkamina because they're going to both end up with the same property. Question is, do they have to redo it, the whole calculation again? Right? So meaning if they're looked at like Yarshim, they don't have to redo it. If they look at like Lekuchas, that they've bought it from each other, then it does. So Rabbi Yochanan says, brothers that are splitting, they are considered like purchasers and they have to give it back to each other and then resplit it. So what do you say? Right now, if you say Breira, so why don't you just say that there's not Lekuchas? The Breira, when they each one chooses their part of the field, retroactively that happens from the time their father died. So they shouldn't be Lekuchas. Okay, so maybe he doesn't hold the Breira b'daraisa, because you can't say retroactive decisions by something that's from the Torah. How the Rabbanon Islay, but by the Rabbanon there is Breira, or the Rabbanon mi Islay. Does Rabbi Yochanan really hold a Breira on the Rabbanon? But Tani Ayoy says, so now we have this other case we had in Eruvin, where a Talmud Chacham was coming for Shabbos and they had no idea which direction he was coming. That's one case. The other case is two Talmud Chacham are coming, they had no idea which direction. So the guy wants to go greet them, he has no idea which way to make an Eruv. So he makes two Eruvin, and he says, if he's coming this way, I'm going to go that way, and if he comes that way, I go that way. So that's the case. So Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Ein Adam Masna Al Shnei Dvarim Ke'echad. A person cannot make a Tanai on two things at once. Right? That I'm going to go this way, I'm going to go that way. Right? he has to say, if the chacham's coming to the east, my eruv is to the east. L'mayruv, eruv l'mayruv. Ve'ilu lakan lakan, loy. But he can't say that I'm going to go whichever way I want. Meaning he has to say either I'm going east or I'm going west, right? So Vavinaba, and they discussed Mishna lakan lakan loy. Why here and here do we not allowed to do it? They ain't breira, right? So there's no breira because he can't decide. We say you can't make a decision. Again, his decision has to be made before Yom. So he says, I'm going to decide when I hear on Friday night which way he's coming, or on Yom Tov, which way the rabbis are coming, I'm going to decide. So if you say it's retroactive, great. So then the decision ends up being retroactive to before. But if it's not retroactive, so what if you don't say that, then how is it going to work? So that's what we're saying. We don't say breder. So the Mizrach Umar Nami ain't breder. Even if he says he's going to the east and the west, there's also no breder. The Kfar Bo Chacham, Rabbi Yochanan says it's talking about where the Chacham already came before night. So since he came before night, it has nothing to do with breder. It's just, yes, Naftali, we said we had an Erevin, right? So Kfar Bo Chacham is saying it's talking about where the Chacham already came. So it's not retroactive at all. It's all, the decision was already made before Yom Tov. Whatever it is, Alma lesson Rabbi Yochanan breder. We see from this brisa, right, that it's Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan does not hold of breder. Yeah. So Gemara says Elohim loy tevel. So now back, we're not switching the shitas. The chilas later Rabbi Yoshia breder. When does Rabbi Yoshia not hold the breder? But the rice. That's but the rice is out. But the Rabbanon is lay. But by the Rabbanans, he holds a brera. Yeah. Okay. Even though there's a 2 dots and a few lines, it's the Gemara, the next Gemara is a new thing. Okay, so we'll stop here. I guess 5:30 tomorrow. 5:30.
Okay.
Hey,
Okay. Good enough, everybody. I got to run out tomorrow.
Good to know.